You didn't fall into this by accident. You were watched, you were understood, and then you were used. They ask themselves quietly, what am I doing wrong? They assume they are too trusting, too soft, too emotional. But what if the answer is darker than that? What if the reason you keep getting hurt is not because you are broken, but because you are deeply human in a world that knows how to exploit that? This is not a story about villains. It's a story about access, and empathy is the key that grants it. Stay here. Go slowly, because this is not something you hear once and forget. Empathy is not kindness. That's the lie most people are taught. Empathy is absorption. It is the ability to feel emotional shifts before words are spoken, to sense discomfort in a room, to carry tension that does not belong to you. Empathic people don't just listen, they internalize. They replay conversations. They imagine intentions. They search for meanings beneath meanings. Empathy means you feel responsible for emotional harmony. When someone is upset, you feel it in your chest. When someone is distant, you assume it's your fault. And in a healthy environment, this ability creates connection. It deepens relationships. It fosters understanding. But empathy has a shadow, because the same sensitivity that allows you to care also allows others to see exactly where you bend. Not everyone experiences empathy the way you do. Some people feel discomfort when they hurt others. Others feel nothing, and some feel something else entirely. They feel advantage. You feel guilt. They feel leverage. You reflect. They observe. You ask yourself, how can I fix this? They ask, how far can this go? This is not about evil intentions. It's about emotional architecture. Some people regulate their inner world internally. Others regulate it externally by controlling how you feel. And empathic people are the easiest mirrors to use. People like to believe manipulative individuals target victims randomly. They don't. They are drawn to consistency. They notice who explains themselves, apologizes quickly, tries to understand instead of confront, values peace over certainty. They notice who feels uncomfortable with tension. Empathy broadcasts availability. It says, I will carry emotional weight if it means stability. And to someone who avoids responsibility, this feels like relief. It never starts with harm, it starts with connection. A story about a difficult past, a wound they expose carefully, just enough pain to awaken your compassion. You lean in, you listen deeply, you reassure, you offer understanding. And in that moment, a quiet calculation happens. They see that you respond to vulnerability by offering safety. They see that you prioritize emotional repair over emotional truth. That's when the dynamic shifts, not suddenly, gradually. The tests are subtle, a boundary crossed slightly, a comment that stings but sounds harmless, a mood shift that leaves you unsettled. Nothing you can point to, but you feel it. And because you are empathic, you don't accuse. You search inward. Did I say something wrong? Maybe I misunderstood. They didn't mean it like that. You resolve the tension alone, and that's the lesson they learn. You will do the emotional labor without being asked. Over time, patterns form. You notice. You explain yourself often. You soften your words. You hesitate before honesty. Not because you're lying, because you're calculating impact. You are no longer asking, is this true? You are asking, will this hurt them? Your empathy has shifted targets. It no longer protects connection. It protects control. Control does not announce itself. It whispers, "You're too sensitive. I didn't mean it that way. You're reading too much into it." These phrases don't sound aggressive, they sound reasonable, and that's the danger. Because when confusion appears, your empathy fills the gap. You assume good intentions. You doubt your perception. They don't need to convince you. You do it for them. Something begins to happen inside you. You feel tired after conversations. You feel anxious before speaking. You rehearse sentences. You abandon them. You shrink truths into fragments. Your nervous system learns a lesson. Honesty creates discomfort. Silence creates peace. And slowly, you stop listening to yourself. People on the outside don't understand. They ask why you don't leave. They don't see what leaving represents to you. Leaving feels like cruelty. You imagine their sadness, their anger, their abandonment. Your empathy extends beyond the present moment into imagined futures. You feel responsible for emotional outcomes that are not yours to manage. So you stay, not because you're trapped, because you care. Empathy is expensive. When it is unguarded, it drains silently. You lose confidence, clarity, emotional safety. You feel disconnected from yourself. You sense something is wrong but can't name it, because naming it would require prioritizing your experience, and that feels wrong to you now. Awareness doesn't arrive dramatically, it arrives quietly. A single thought: why am I always the one trying? That question destabilizes the entire structure, because empathy paired with awareness is no longer exploitable. You begin to notice patterns. You stop filling silence automatically. You pause, and that pause changes everything. When the dynamic shifts, there is often resistance. Confusion increases. Guilt intensifies. They may accuse you of changing, and they are right. You are. You are reclaiming emotional authority. Here is the truth few people are taught. Empathy without boundaries is self-abandonment. You can understand someone without absorbing them. You can care without caring. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. When empathy is no longer exploitable, one of three things happens. They adjust, they resist, or they leave. None of these outcomes mean you failed. They mean the dynamic can no longer feed on you. You begin to hear your own voice again. You trust your perceptions. You stop apologizing for existing. And for the first time in a long while, you feel grounded, not hardened, just whole. Empathy is not your weakness, but left unprotected, it becomes an open door. So ask yourself this, slowly: who has benefited the most from how much you care? Sit with the answer. Follow Psycho Rai for more videos like this.